Sooner Scoop HD.
Good. All right, I'm going to change it up today. We're going to just open it up for questions, all right? Y'all don't, I talk too long anyway, right? You guys got all your questions and your agendas and all that kind of stuff, so I'm just going to open it up for everybody.
Ryan? Yeah, Brent. You've talked a lot about the importance of making a bowl. I want to ask you, what's some of the most important parts of that? And when you look back at, say, some other points in your career, especially 1999 going into 2000, how much did those practices, that extra time, help springboard into that next year?
Yeah, I thought it was incredibly important. The number one thing is continue to develop your team, practicing fundamentals. You spend a majority of your first several practices, depending on how much time you actually have to practice. Spend your first several practices with just working fundamentals, and then the good work that you do. You're using primarily your young players, and even taking time to scrimmage those guys and continue to give them game type reps. So that's the biggest part of it, and continue to be around your players. Continue to nurture relationships. Things of that nature, keeping them busy, right? When your kids come home from school, you want them to stay busy, right? So you give them a list of chores, or you sign them up for activities and things like that, because it's good for them. So same thing, just to continue to provide structure, and accountability, an environment where they can continue to grow and get better. The seasons are different now than even they were back then. The season's a lot longer now. So, what you typically do now is you give your guys much needed time off, and where they can focus on academics and things of that nature. So you're typically now, you're not, this last several years, you're not practicing as much as you used to back in the day, in 99 and 2000 and things like that.
Eli?
Talked on Saturday about Oklahoma beating Oklahoma and that correcting those mistakes, and the guys yesterday talked about a correction day. Is it correction day any different when the mistakes are maybe the same in week 3 than they are in week 12?
I wouldn't say all the mistakes aren't the same. Every single one of them is a story of its own. Is it an effort mistake? Second half, 2nd and 10. Arm Mason makes a terrific play on the boot. He just takes a little bit of a bad angle and has to reach for the quarterback. And instead of 3rd and 22, it's 1st and 10. They go on to score on that drive. That's an effort play. So, and there's fundamentals, and he hasn't been there, done that, 100 times yet. And so that's his first time he's done that. So I wouldn't say they're not all the same. Some of them, a false start is a false start. The timing of it. And again, we had 6 penalties; they had 5. Historically, here in the last several years, 5, 7, 8 years, we have not been a very disciplined football team when it comes to penalties. We've been one of the worst in the Big 12, and nationally, we've been in the bottom half of the country, and right now, again, we've got to continue. We got to eliminate those. We've been able to overcome it in the past. We can't. The margin for error is very small, and like we've seen, and I think the Kansas State game, we were, it was 11 penalties maybe, 1-score game. Baylor, the turnovers and some penalties, critical, and certainly, we got punished. So anything that we're not doing right now, you're talking about the mistakes and the discipline and things of that nature, all of that, it begins and ends with me, and that's my responsibility. And obviously, I'm doing a very poor job of managing all of that. If it's a missed tackle, if it's a drop pass, if it's a false start, if it's a missed field goal, if it's a misfit on a kickoff, all of those things that's my responsibility, and so my job is to get it corrected. And so anyway, we don't have the right now the margin small, and in the timing of the penalties, whether you're taking a touchdown off the board, because of where 8 inches too far down the field, or again, we're offsides and we get an interception in a late hit. Everything's negated, because we're lined up, in the neutral zone. Again, another, freshman mistake, that's not quite ready for the moment. And there's a couple of other, some that we are able to overcome. We ran into the return man, just again an effort play, poor timing, and the guy didn't have the ball yet, so you can't do that. So, but we were forced to punt on that one. I'm just kind of thinking through what some of those penalties were. But again, we've had a long history of not being disciplined, but we've been able to overcome it in the past. And this year, we haven't been able to. We again a much smaller margin for error.
If I asked you to dive into that history on a very different note, can you think back to November 1999 and your first Bedlam and some of those feelings of that day, and what you remember from that?
I remember Stocker McDougal scoring on the jumbo offense. That was kind of cool. And I'm trying to think. It was Bob Simmons. Yes or no? You're supposed to know. You asked the 99 question. I think it's Bob Simmons. Was Poguy? Was he the guy? Was he the 99? That doesn't sound right.
No,
There was a
Tony
Lindsay from Colorado. Yeah. I mean, it was, it was like a Super Bowl for us. That's what I remember. I think, was it Rob Ryan? He had something to say. I think he said something. That was when I was still at Kansas State. He said something about our linebackers. He said something about our linebackers, and we destroyed them that day. But no, I just remember. I remember those things. I think it was the week of Thanksgiving, right? And thinking, why do we got to play this game on Thanksgiving week? Why can't we I think we had been used to, prior to coming, that Thanksgiving week was a week that you had off, and then you played the next week, but not necessarily at Oklahoma. But I remember thinking that too, if you want me to be transparent and honest. But then now I like it, that you're playing that week. But anyway, I remember winning. I can't remember the score. I usually remember pretty good with scores, but I remember Stocker scoring on a jumbo package, and I remember it was Coach Simmons, and I remember Tony Lindsay, but
44-7, by the way.
44-7, yeah.
Let's go over here to Jesse. Brent, you talked after the game about Eric Gray, just how consistent he's been and how he's a guy you haven't had to worry about. Just how much of an example maybe has he become for especially some of the younger guys on either side of the ball in terms of the consistency and effort, intensity you have to have success at this level? Yeah,
and again, Eric's kind of a quiet leader, but man, his play is really loud. He's having a monster season. I think this is fastest to 1,100 plus yards since Adrian Peterson in 2004. We've had a bunch of great backs here, and so that obviously says a lot. He leads the Big 12, in rushing per carry, and I think he's 7th among Power 5 players. So. And I think 6th nationally, 6.7 yards a carry, but running, catching, and I'm not sure what's being talked about from a media standpoint with him, but man, he's been outstanding in blitz pickup as well. He's not a real big guy. I mean, he's muscled up, smaller in stature, but plays big, in that way as well. Just he's a perfectionist. He cares about his teammates. He's just a great teammate. I think the best reward that you can have as a player is the respect of your teammates, and he has that. Really proud of him and the consistency that he's performed at. This is a game of performance, and he has shown up each and every week. Sometimes he's made something out of nothing, but he can make a miss on the second and the third level, make a miss at the first level for that matter, runs through trash, can get outside with speed and run with patience, and tempo inside, and so just been outstanding, catching the ball in space as well. And it's fun to see a guy like that that's so unassuming and hardworking have success.
Yeah, Brent, little off topic here. And you weren't around Jeremiah Criddell as a player.
Yeah.
So what's it been like to watch him grow as a student coach and the conversations that led to that position?
Yeah, so Jeremiah approached me and introduced himself when I was down at a bowl practice at the Alamo Bowl, and introduced himself, and we had a 20-30 minutes where we talked through his journey and certainly his journey here, and I let him know that I watched him. He's actually coaching then. Loved his energy, a real infectious personality, got a light inside of him, and just a really ultra positive, great teammate you could see, and the players really respected him. And he expressed a desire to potentially, stick around and coach, and so I was all for that. And again, the game ends for everyone, and so what's cool is that the game's been so good to him that he wanted an opportunity to stay around the game and pay the game back. And so he shows up every day, takes great pride in what he does, over-deliver. He cares what you think. He's going to be a terrific coach. He's got great relational skills, really, really bright, great communicator, full of energy, and has a willingness to be coached as well. So, real humble guy. Love him.
James?
Brent, in that C.J. Colvin play, I never really heard an explanation why they picked up that flag. Can you tell us why they did, or do you know why
Well,
they did?
I know that they've come back and said they shouldn't have. And Spang Bang, thought that that he wasn't down yet. It's not a reviewable. So happens. We're all human.
Last week, we didn't ask you about the opponent. Could you please do a deep dive on Oklahoma State?
Yeah.
Tell us what you think.
Yeah, they've been again. I got some good stuff on them. Y'all already know, but no, they're Spencer Sanders. I think this is between. I think he started 52-ish or so games in high school as a quarterback, and then this is his 41st start, I think, in college. He might be. I bet he's a top 10er for sure, right? Can I say that, top 10er? Huh? I can if I want, but it's not really appropriate. So top 10, who has 90-some starts as a quarterback, incredibly experienced. He's a winner, He's instinctive, he's fast, he's explosive, got a quick release. You can tell he's got a lot of moxie. You can tell he's played a lot of football. The team rallies behind him, plays off his leadership and his energy. Sometimes the worst thing you can do is cover everybody because he can really run, and he's a true dual threat guy. They've got designed quarterback runs for him, but they do a good job of moving the launch point. But he makes all the throws. Really excellent player. They're averaging 35 points a game, and top 25 in scoring. And again, he leads the Big 12 in total offense. So number one, top guy. So 290 yards a game. He's completing 60% of his passes. He's, all Big 12 returner, 2 wins shy of the school record for the most victories as a starting quarterback. So I guess it means he beat Mike Gundy's record at some point in time, huh? So that's good. And then defensively, they lead the Big 12 in third down defense. Been really outstanding, and they're 11th in the country in tackles for loss, per game. So they've been disruptive. They've had success they had a tremendous year defensively last year. A lot of those same guys returning. They do have confidence. I know they're banged up a little bit, but top to bottom, I think they have belief in what they do, and they're had a great win, forced 5 turnovers, against Iowa State last week. So Going to be a great challenge. This game's always, you never know how it's going to go. Throw the records out, as we all know. I really like 20. Their running back runs downhill with purpose. They do a nice job in the run game with him as well. I know he's an Oklahoma kid, and they've got more Oklahoma guys on their roster than we do, and by long ways. And that's something that I recognized when I first got the job, 11 and a half months ago. The depth of the and they play for the Big 12 championship and beat us a year ago. With a roster that looks like that. So that's a credit to them finding guys and developing them, and they've done a great job. They beat Texas. They had TCU down 28-7. Was it 28-0? They had. It was 28-7 at one time, and TCU had a crazy comeback, in the second half. So two of the best teams this season, anyway, in the conference. And then, again, you lose your starting quarterback, it's tough, And I think they had some other injuries as well, and went through a little rough patch, but got a really good win against a really, disciplined team in Iowa State, last week. So it's going to be a great challenge for us.
Right here, Brandon Drum.
Yeah, Brent, can you talk about Danny Stutzman's, growth from start of the season to now, just kind of the up and down that he's had throughout the season, and where you see his future?
Yeah, well, Danny leads the Big 12 in tackles per game, so that's pretty good, right? I know some people think he stinks, but I'm pretty proud of him. He's gotten better, and like all growth patterns for young players, there's going to be some ebbs and flows, but I'm telling you, he's on his way to being an outstanding player. David Awebu, his counterpart's fourth in the conference in tackles per game and in the conference. So I think Danny's maybe top 30th in the country as well. So he's finding the football. He's getting better. He's really hard on himself. A great worker. He's investing a lot of time into his craft, into this team, and takes accountability when it's not good, and so he's easy to coach. He's playing with more and more confidence, and we got to develop depth. And if we're a little more detailed with some of our young guys, he'd be able to. He wouldn't have to play as much, and so as I think he played 90 snaps, last week. That's plus give or take 6 to 8 special team snaps. So, late in the game, he's not going to be nearly as strong and good as he would be earlier in the game. So you've got to continue to develop. I know this is at the end of the year, but got to continue to develop guys and around him as well. But he's really maturing from where he was. I think he'd be the first one to tell you the maturity that's taken place really mentally. Okay, this is how you become a good player. It's not just by showing up every day. I've actually got to spend a lot of time in working at my craft, both on the field, in the film room, and certainly in the weight room. But he's got great awareness, and for you to create change, you got to have awareness, and then you got to have self accountability, and then again the action. And he's putting in the work. So I'm really proud of him and the improvement that he's made. And and he's still got a long ways to go, is the way I would say it, and he knows that. But he's made tremendous improvement from where we started spring football.
Do you feel better about your linebacker depth at this point?
I like what I'm seeing from the young guys that are behind him. Yes, so the guys. Harrington is working at that cheetah as well, and then we got Kanik working in there at Mike, and Kobe. Kobe's been working a little more scout team, but Kobe has really made improvement fundamentally. Has leaned his body up. He's playing quicker and faster, and he's got great instincts. And he's got concrete in his helmet. Really a striker. I like the versatility that a guy like Kanik, I think he can play all three. And then Kip Lewis he's really come. I'm not sure how ready he is for game reps yet, just based on how practice is going. And again, he's got to get more details down and spend a little more time. It's hard as a freshman, time management's an issue. So he's in a very structured, demanding schedule from a class standpoint, and tutorials and things of that, and your weights. It's hard to find windows of that you could come in and watch film, and if he did, I think he could close that gap just a little bit more, just to be in a little bit more detailed. It matters, as you see when you're not in the A gap and you're supposed to be in the A gap, or you don't stay outside the block and you're supposed to, bad things are going to happen. And we got plenty of guys that have made mistakes, but if you do it like 5 straight times, that's a problem. I'm not saying that Kip did that, but he's just got a little further to go. But when he gets it all figured out, Kip's got instincts. He's fearless. I wish he'd gain a little weight. He's barely over 200 pounds, right now. And typically, during the course of the season for a freshman that's not really playing a whole lot, you'll see, give or take 5 to 8 pounds of weight gain. And so that hasn't happened yet. But he's got a great frame. And he's got great hands and ball instincts. Really excited about that group of guys, and the group of guys that that are coming as well. I think it's going to be an outstanding group when it's all said and done.
Brent, I asked Ted yesterday about recruiting with a 5-5 record and how it may create opportunities in recruiting. And maybe you could come in here and help us right away kind of mentality. He said there's opportunities there. The guys that you're recruiting see those opportunities. At Oklahoma, you're used to recruiting from the top of the standings. Can you maybe describe the change, or if there is a change?
Top of the standings, what does that mean? I'm sorry.
Going for playoff, or
I got you.
Winning the Big 12, being the team that's recruiting the guys that you want, versus recruits maybe looking at your 5-5 record going, what are those?
Yeah. I don't know. One of our best recruiting classes was in 1999. We had 2 weeks to recruit. That'd be a good story idea. Go back and look at that group of guys, whether it's Derek Strait or Brandon Everidge or Josh Heupel or Torrance Marshall, some really good players. And there's a lot more than just that. But Quentin Griffin, didn't even start on his own high school team. But when you start watching tape late, a lot of times those guys that develop later, can become just amazing players. Jeremy Beal, that you recruit for a very short amount of time. I know I've said this before, but I think identifying good football players and guys that love it, guys that high character, guys that value education, guys that have a blue-collar work ethic, looking for guys that have instincts. They may not have all the measurables. When some of the guys show up to a combine, one of those camps that, oh man, he ran 4.7. Well, you know what? 4.7 is pretty good. Rocky Calmus was 4.7. You know Rocky Calmus? Yeah, heard of it? So, there's a thing called game speed too. And again, listen, we're trying to find the biggest, baddest, strongest, most explosive, ferocious players you can. Sometimes they're highly regarded, and sometimes they aren't. I think, and I've challenged the staff, 3 months ago. Don't go off a list or who's offered people. There's a lot of effort being spent now with whether it's handlers or outside resources that are promoting kids. Some of it's warranted and some of it's not. It's hype and, let their play on the tape, and all their character references, be, what we use, and continue to watch guys and see if they can develop. So, from opportunity as far as guys that maybe we have committed or we're still recruiting, absolutely. I think that's attractive. Where's their track record? That again, okay, we're having 5-5, so it's been how many ever years? It's been a long time since Oklahoma's been 5-5. I've never been 5-5, but it's also, I think you have to be real and practical, and I think this is the biggest roster turnover that's ever happened here, right? I think that's fair to say. So that's never happened until now too. So I think a lot goes into it. I think there's, you can sell again. You're looking for anything, right? You're in a sales business. I think you'd be negligent if you didn't. So hey, we're 3 of the losses, 1 score losses. It comes down to the last drive of the game. We got to be a little better. A lot of things got to be better. But and then there's a track record of success. Certainly. Schemes on both sides of the ball, and coaches and experience in big games and successful teams and things of that nature, I think goes a long way. And you have a long history, not a not a a winning season here and a winning season there. I'm talking about a long history of success. And then they're in the recruiting game on their side of it. They're trying to know people and what's real and what isn't as well. And so when you come from a place of genuineness and authenticity, I think people see that, when you're being real and you're being honest, and and it's a relationship driven. So I think it's start with again, like say we had a top-notch quarterback committed, like you can go anywhere in the country, and schools are still coming after him really hard. Excellent schools that are in those big games that you're talking about or having those successful seasons. But somehow, some way, he continues to stay loyal to you because he sees a vision. He sees track record. He has, dreams to have this amazing opportunity at, your school. And he's developed these relationships that mean something to him. And, so I think some of those things through all the noise and what can be, the negativity. And listen, if I'm on the other side of it, man, I'm using all that too. If I'm recruiting against, that's what I'd be saying. I say, are you sure? So it just comes with it. You don't like it, and do something else. I'm just saying as a recruiter, I'm talking about myself. But I don't mind it. I expect it, and my job is to protect it and have a voice of reason. And if at some point somebody wants to, move on, that's okay too. There's plenty of guys. There's a whole long line of people, all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico that'd love for an opportunity to come here. And our job is to always be ready in that regard. And sometimes, all right, you lost this one, and this has happened many times through the years. You lost this great one, the one that you couldn't ever lose. You don't lose him. He's that one. And then you get something else, and because of it, you replace him with someone else, and this other one comes in, and it's amazing. And that's happened time and time and time again. So just having, using your experience to again, be a voice of reason, for both your staff and for recruits.
Real quick, do you have an early read on what your transfer portal needs are going to be yet?
No. Again, I think our roster would probably need a couple of spots. We'll just see how everything goes. But I just would say, if you just look back at it, we don't need a quarterback, okay? That's how I feel. And so, because you see some elite quarterbacks in the transfer portal for whatever reason. And then maybe because a staff is let go, you might be some excellent players that also are great guys and workers. Are they running from something? That's what you got to ask yourself. And I wouldn't put them all in that at all. Virginia lost a center last year. Bronco Mendenhall retired. They lost a center. We tried to get him. I don't know. He'll be one of the favorites to win the Remington and All-American. He's killing it at Michigan. And so, finding him is one thing, and then doing everything you can to attract him is another. There's another one, defensive lineman. Man, we were within seconds of going in the portal. We are on the phone and lots of conversation. We couldn't get him to come, and he already had it in his mind where he was going, and didn't take any other visits, and he's having a great year. So it's hard. As I told the coaches, that's not going to be the only answer. You're not going to get bailed out, okay? Because I'm not going to, there's one guy, he's kicked off the team, and I got a couple coaches coming to me like, hey, man, this is the one. He's the one. I'm like, that coach kicked him off their team. And again, some things happen. But this coach don't kick nobody off the team unless they've done something. I'm like, and that's supposed to be our answer, And guess what? He hadn't played for the other team yet. And so you spend all this time and these resources, and you put them in your locker room. And I tell these parents, I'm going to work really hard to surround your son with great people. People matter, and people always make the place. And so finding the right kind of people, they're about all the right stuff. They're good enough, bare minimum. That starts with that, and then making sure that again they're they're about the right stuff and the values align. Again, they value education, value structure and accountability and the discipline, and want to be told the truth and want to have to work for their opportunity. They're not entitled to anything. And so all those things matter in the transfer portal, and you got a very small window to try to figure that out. Even smaller now. Before, the guys could be in the transfer portal, months ago, which, I'm not a, I don't love that either, because I just don't like guys having the ability to, just quit in the middle of the season. I don't think that's healthy, just as a dad. No, you finish, and then when the season's over and you need a fresh start, then let's look at it then. But, you're committed to something, you need to follow through, I don't think that's asking too much. So I think some of those guidelines now, they've done that to protect, the schools too, and really the kids from themselves at the end of the day.
Right
Yeah.
side, Barry.
Yeah, Brent, both these teams this week are having seasons not up to what they wanted or expected. Does that make it convenient that you're playing each other, a rivalry game? I mean, 4 years from now, if you happen to go 5-5 or 6-5, you might be playing Missouri or somebody, and not near as an emotional of a game. Is this a nice thing to have, or does it not matter?
I mean, I think anytime we're going to play Oklahoma State, it's going to be great. So, I think that's a fair question. I think our guys, you want to believe at the end of the day that they're going to always be excited and emotional and invested about playing week to week, because you only get 12 opportunities a week. That's the environment that I want. For some, it'll mean a little more because maybe they did grow up in this state, and we got a lot of guys that have never played in this game, a bunch. So, but it is your rival. We've been talking about, it's been brought up, in the media because of us going to. We're still going to the SEC, right? In a few years, and so it's been talked about too a little bit, and so our guys are certainly aware that we only may play a couple more times. So, but I do think that the juice and the edge and understanding what's at stake here in this state, the long history and series and the tradition and all the different. Again, every year is a little bit different, right? Everybody can reference this game and know all the individual accolades or the scores, or it went down to an overtime, or it went down to a punt at the last minute, or it was 44-7, or lit or rip, right? Was that Les Miles, 52-7? Was that 52-7?
Yeah. 52-9.
52-9. Who's counting, right? But anyway, it's for me. I've been a K-State guy. My last college game, regular season college game, played in Manhattan, was against Oklahoma State. So, of course, it wasn't our rival, but and we won. So that was always good. But no, I mean, this is always a great rivalry. There's great intensity and passion in the stadium. Y'all know that, whether it's at their place or our place. The fans, this state is very invested in this rivalry game, and going to be a lot of fun. Our guys, we practiced well last night, good energy, great focus, and we do have some really good leaders that have been a part of this series and understand the importance of it and the value of it.
Aaron?
You remember what your defense did in this game in 2009?
2009, was that the third down? They didn't convert a third down.
Converted one.
Was it shutout, 27-0? Yeah, we had a really good defense that year. Really good defense.
You had, and that was a year that brought its share of challenges.
We had
All sorts of
2
issues.
1-point losses, right? 14-13 to
Lost
BYU, 21-20 to
You lost
Miami.
Sam right out of the gate. Lost Jermaine Gresham before the season started.
Trent Williams.
Yeah. In fact, they had people out of position on the offensive line in that game. Anyway, point being, that team had a share of challenges. You'd never know it by how well you played, especially on defense.
Right.
Late in the year, that was another OU team that had 5 losses going into this game, which was crazy. What would you take from that group? Traits from that those kids on defense in particular and say to these kids that you have now, here's what you need to learn from that group?
Yeah, just playing for one another, playing for the love of the game. It's football. It's what you know. I remind them every day. I bring that hourglass and set that in front of them. Like your days are numbered to play this game. And you don't know. The two most important days in your life are today because you got breath in your body, and that day is going to come for everybody. Okay, but don't take any of it for granted. I don't talk about it just when we're 5-5. I've been talking about So I try to, I don't want them to dread coming to practice every day. It's challenging, demanding enough, and so I want them to really have the right perspective about this vapor in their life of playing this game, a game that they love, and help facilitating all their dreams. So that team, was as tight of a team as I've been on, and through some disheartening, some struggles where, again, BYU was the opener. And then, again, we go on the road to Miami, 21-20, and I wish I knew the other. I thought there was another maybe 1-point game, and then we finished against a really good Stanford team and played excellent. My daughter was born. I was on the practice field and down in El Paso, and I had to FaceTime with my wife because it wasn't a planned birth. She was like 3 weeks early. So anyway, I know you didn't ask anything like that. I'm off like I typically do, get off on in the middle of that 2009 season. But with that team, like the cool part of that, so after our last Oklahoma State, was that our last regular season game? And then we're going to play Stanford, right? So Keenan Clayton, who's our starting Sam linebacker, Jim Harbaugh was the coach there, and they had Toby Gerhart and all these monsters, and they had these big tight ends that were like 290 pounds. And Keenan Clayton comes in on Sunday after the game. Keenan played great against Oklahoma State. And he comes in and he's like, he says, Coach, he goes, I've been watching Stanford. I was like, hey, man, maybe it was then, maybe it was the following Sunday. But he comes in and he's like, he's a high school safety that's playing our hybrid position. And he says, I got an idea. And I said, what? He said, I can play safety. I played safety. He's from Sulphur Springs in Texas. And he said, I can play safety. I've played it my whole high school career. I started playing linebacker when I came here. And I was like, ding, ding, ding. And so we put him at strong safety. We took our defensive ends, and they became Sam backers. Jeremy Beal. I can't remember who was our other one. Frank. Okay, we played a lot of two-point positions anyway. I took Gerald McCoy, a couple of D tackles. I played them at 5 techniques because the tight ends were, again, 290, but this all came from just a group of guys. Man, there was trust, there was belief. They had great relations. So when I'm like, that's awesome. What a great idea. And because we had to play a lot of 5-man front and things like that, they played a tremendous amount of 12 and 22, 23 personnel. And anyway, as you all know, we ended up playing really, really well. But when I presented that to the guys, this drastic, game plan change, if you will, going in our last game on a season that's had some turbulence. Man, they were all in. They were bought in 100%. And this is a group of guys that had been very successful all year, really. And so that says a lot about who they are and the belief in one another and what we're asking them to do, even when things maybe on the outside aren't going, everybody else is miserable. And but our guys never, again, quote unquote, they never flinched. So, and I know there's some similarities even to the 2005 group that we've alluded to, and I got some guys on staff that were part of that, that have been able to, to me, I feel, this is just me, I feel we've been able to stay connected through all the chaos of this season, and I'm proud of that, and it's not over yet, and there's every single day you got challenges, and so I don't take that for granted either, the work that it takes, and I got to do a good job with the staff because I'm only one man, so they've got to be an extension of me, and so I gotta be real, I gotta be honest, I gotta be practical, I gotta how do you fix whatever it is, and and then again getting our guys to be excited about coming to see us every day. And again, Sunday, man, you had a whole line of them, and they're all coming in on their own. And so, to me, and guys that were just coming in with the right mindset, humility, eager to learn and grow and improve, and I just love that, and that's what a lot of people don't necessarily see, and that I'm not expecting anybody to really even understand that, but having done this for 30 years, understand that that's what it looks like. And right now, the winning the winning column isn't where any of us want it to be, but that's growth. That's moving in the right direction. And I reference that Coach Sweeney's first full-time year. I think he was 6-6, and I think they had just lost a bowl game. And he would often talk about it in front of the team, just the leadership, those guys that were all leaving, what they had to say in that locker room after that last defeat, going 6-6. And of course, then they go, I think, next year and then several more years, win the ACC, after that. But knowing that you got the right people that, that get it, what it's going to be all about, foundationally. And but you learn from those past teams, those past players, certainly those past moments. Absolutely, I learn from it. We have a substantial amount of former players that were part of that, and again, a lot of our former players stay in contact with our current players, whether it's a Teddy Lehman or a Dusty Dvorak, amongst others. There's plenty more than that, and so some of the most recent guys, all they know is all the winning. They hadn't had really. I know we lost a couple of. I know everybody thought we had a bad season last year just because we lost our last 2 games, but really the last several years, don't really know about what that cleansing, that pruning season looks like. And but that's again, and that's not a lot of fun to go through it, but man, that's where the real growth happens. Mm-hmm.
Jenny?
Brent, quarterbacks often get too much credit, too much blame, but in rivalry games like this, we often see sort of quarterbacks defined, everything from like Josh Fields throwing to Rashawn Woods here, or Sam cartwheeling into the end zone up there. How do you see quarterbacks influence in rivalry games like this?
Yeah, the quarterback can't play bad and you win most of the time. All right, I don't know what those percentages would look like. So I think good quarterback play is a part of winning, generally speaking, in the rivalry games, because everybody's tuned in and the emotion is very real and raw and authentic. That they're usually the face of both teams. So I think that's the main thing, and those are some great examples of those guys. Every single one of those. When you said their names, it brought me back right there in the middle of that moment. So and then you attach yourselves to it. I do myself as a coach to all the different games that you've been in. So the big, I'm talking about the important games. So whether it's the bowl games or certainly the rivalry games, you remember them all like it was yesterday. And the quarterbacks are a big part of that. Right, wrong, or indifferent. They share all the success and the accolades, or again, they can catch the blame too.
Okay, let's go second row, John Shea.
Yeah, Brent, as you mentioned, cleansing season, a couple of questions ago, how much of this year do you kind of, when you just chart how the year's going, just think, well, this is year 1, I can't wait to take another swing at this in year 2, or tweak this or tweak that. How much of that is part of this cleansing season?
I think when we're together as a staff, and whether it's prepping or we're talking through a lot of things, recruiting or roster or the games, practice, whatever it is, we often talk about a year from now, we'll be on another planet. Now some of that's coach speak, but some of it's knowing. Sometimes guys are paralyzed right now that they're not, whether it's playing as fast as you want them to, or as aggressive as you want them to, or as sure of themselves, or as consistent. All those things, it comes from just being more and more comfortable. So I think there's knowing how progressively it works from year to year as you mature within the systems that we all recognize that there'll be great improvement just from familiarity alone, and then certainly as a staff, starting with myself, lots of little things. Okay, don't do that. Don't practice here. Take a day off there. Don't recruit that guy. Don't take another chance with that kind of guy, or whatever it is. Or even in the games, I told the players, I can whether it's K-State, it's Baylor, or it's West Virginia, I can name right now one call that if I could get it back, we'd take it back, and it could have a great chance to help us win, be on the other side of it. And then every player, every coach, everybody's got to take that kind of accountability. What could I have done? And there's all these plays of inches, right, everywhere. Every game's that way, Sometimes it goes your way, sometimes you can overcome it, and then sometimes right now we can't, but they're everywhere. And which one or which two? So you have to, again, just 1 inch, one play at a time. Like, I get better from that. We're on the wrong side of it, but I'm gonna be better. So you put it in your back pocket.
Is it also a deal of no matter how many great head coaches you're around, until you're making that decision yourself, that's really what you've got to wait to experience?
I'm sure. I think I'd be lying if I said, in 5 years from now, I'm not that I wasn't better than what I was in year one. That just like when I first became a linebacker coach, Bill Snyder finally said, "All right, I'm going to hire you on an interim basis." And in the back of my mind, I was like, "Man, I have no idea about my Brown rules as a coverage." I'm like, "God, I don't even know Brown yet. I got to get Brown down." But I'm like celebrating. I'm like, I had a lot of work to do, and I'm a lot better than I was in that year. And I always try to help the support guys, all the GAs and the analysts. Same thing. I'm like, when I was a GA, I was nowhere close to your knowledge, the depth of what you can do, the quality of what you do, the things that you know. I was nowhere close to that, to where you're at right now. And so there's a natural maturation for everybody. If you're honest with yourself, if you have those 3 A's I always talk about to create change and improvement, awareness and accountability and action, and I've always tried to learn from others and learn from myself through experiences, both good and bad. And the times that I've been at my best, just personally speaking, is through the toughest moments, whether it's death in the family, losing a player, losing a game in a way we did not represent ourselves the right way. And all of those things fuel you, give you different perspective, and you learn and grow through that. As difficult and challenging as it is, you self-evaluate, and even through wins and success, I'll be honest, there's all kinds of opportunities to grow and improve through the success. And I think well-managed failure is what it's all about. That's what make or breaks you. Well-managed success is a big thing. What happens through all kinds of success? Everybody starts to get complacent, one hand on the wheel. It's all about me, and people just start to lose their edge, and they lack ability to grow and improve. And then through loss and failure, I think, again, well-managed, all right, you point the finger, blame everybody, it's not my fault. That's one way. I got to get rid of all these players and get my own guys. That's one way. And or you have another approach, and it starts with yourself. It starts with a man in the mirror. That's where it should always start. And so anyway, I don't know if I answered your question. I think I did. And that's all, again, just part of going, again, on the journey, head coach or not, whatever position, whatever role you have. I think that's fair to say.
Brent, far right.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned close losses and a lot of close games. Seems like the Big 12's had a lot of games like that this season, and it hasn't mattered where teams have been in the standings. You got Iowa State in last place, got one of the best defenses in the country. Mm-hmm. What has it been like coaching in a league like that, where every single week You got to play well to win.
I think it's great. I know that we got great depth here, and really good coaching and good players. It's very convenient for me to say that now, right? But you're the one that brought it up, and I like it because it's a great challenge. And then I have all these. Again, I'm emotionally attached to whatever it is I'm doing. So, I know the history of these programs that we're facing, and I love good coaching. I love development. I love good stories. I like to be involved with those good stories too. But no, I just got a lot of respect for the game, and so that's what we're also, week in and week out. It's not, you're not going to have a forgiving schedule. We're not playing the #1 team in the country every week, but right now it's not about that. It's, again, if the other team doesn't have a pulse, you can make some mistakes and still be in the win column. And again, there's many games through victory that you've had a ton of mistakes, that you win, and in spite of making all those mistakes, you can just overcome it for whatever reason. But the quality of the coaching, the quality of the play doesn't allow that. And then right now we just don't have that margin for error, on our side of the ball. So it's been challenging, as I think that goes without saying. But for me, I like a good challenge, and every week has been a good challenge.
Okay, Justin Martinez, far right.
Hey, Brent. Jalen Redmond was limited to a few plays this past weekend. Just want to get an update on guys like him, Andrew Ray, Justin Broyles.
And who else do you say?
Raymond Broyles as well.
Yeah, so I expect Justin to be available unless something happens during the course of the week. Again, he had a hyperextended knee, and then he's really, really tough. And I think, if you've ever had one of those, it's really painful initially. Structurally, there's not, a damage, but there's a lot of pain initially. And then you're probably really scared. And then again, there's some bruising and things like that too. But I think functionally and structurally, everything is really sound. But I think he's getting an MRI, and then just to make sure, Jay Red, he's had, just past knee injury before this year, just bothered him during the week last week, and he tried to go. I think he played a play or two, and hopefully that swelling will go down for him. And then it just depends on how Andrew feels. At some point in time, we'll probably have to do a surgery for him, something he's done on another part of his body before. So we'll see. But I thought Robert came in and did a nice job. But Andrew's a good player, really good player. He's played a lot of good ball for us this year. So hopefully, he'll be available. Mm-hmm.
Coach, it's 12:10. You have time for a couple more?
Sure.
Okay. Let's go to Ryan Chapman, second round.
You mentioned Oklahoma State's really great on third down, defense. What does the offense need to do this week? Got to turn that around. It's a place they got struggled last week. Yeah, just, again, being more precise, more detailed, everyone being on the same page. To me, that's an aberration for what they've been, just looking at their body of work on the season. I think we were in the high 40s, 41%, okay. Certainly, that's what it is now. 41 in the country, yeah, 42%.
Yeah, we're at 42%?
Yeah.
Okay, so, and that's after being one of 13. So it went down. So they've been really pretty dang good, on the year. And so I expect them to come back, refocus and have a better outing, learn from some of the things that we need to do better. Coaching and playing. Now, it's not just players, it's all of it. And so that's what I expect, but it's going to be a great challenge. Yeah, because again, you're talking with a unit that's one of the best in the country, situational football. Mm-hmm.
Far left, Myron Patton.
On the Braden Wells touchdown that was taken back, if Weiss had just gotten in the guy's way, would that still been a flag instead of throwing a block?
Yeah, so they technically have to call it on him because he's past the line of scrimmage, but if there is no block,
It's kind of like getting his way.
Yeah. So again, but for us, that's behind the line from a precision standpoint. We've got to be on our side of the line of scrimmage, and I think you probably know that, and that's where we're focused. So Theo had to take the penalty and the on the stat sheet, but it wasn't his. For us, the way we look at it, that's not on him.
Well, I guess what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
These pick plays, what you don't call them, sometimes guys just kind of cross paths.
Yeah, I mean, probably on that particular play, Myron, it wasn't needed based on what they were doing, defensively, based on where the defender was. He was in great position, anyway, but, he doesn't, I would just say that the receiver doesn't. He's just doing what he's been coached to do.
And two, this time of the year, you spend more time, obviously you're X and O and game planning, but how much time do you spend making sure guys are still invested?
Yeah, the same amount that I do every step of the way. I never take that for granted, ever. Because I know how, again, I've got a PhD in dealing with 18 to 23, 24-year-olds, whether it's, my nephews that live with us and my sons, or just, even, just kids, being around this game forever. So I know how people can get distracted. I know what this time of the year can do, but really it's been that way all year, just being very, my job is to keep guys focused and to keep their attention. And if you just do things every single day is the exact same, some way you provide great structure that they're familiar with, because that's needed. But also, how can we spice it up, change it, make them lighthearted? Just you're always trying to stay fresh that way too, so things don't grow stale. I think. So I've always, again, all year have worked at that. Whether it's week one or all the way through here through the end. And does that answer your question?
Yeah, just the fact that you've got 2 games, because sometimes guys can start looking toward the end of the season.
Yeah. Yep. So I've been talking about that. For many, many weeks, and because I know the pitfalls of, you have some good players, you have some guys that maybe they're either decide on whether they'll come back for one more year or go to the NFL, things like that, or or again, there's definitely going to be an opportunity for them to play in the NFL. So I've tried to create loyalty to the brand and loyalty to their opportunity here, loyalty to their brotherhood. It's got to be a big deal. That's what's going to last forever for them, and they want to come back to this facility and bring their families and their children. That's what it's all about. But they don't know. They haven't been 30, 35, 40. So my job is to make sure I remind them that there's a 35-year-old version of them that's counting on them to do what's right now in this moment, because they don't know what they don't know. And so that's, parenting 101. As long as I have them, I'm an extension of that. I know the football side of it, but it's all of it. It's all the same to me. It's life. It's their journey. It all kind of goes together.
Mason, did you have one?
Yeah,
last one. Mason.
Or any update on Keith Lawrence and Jade Davis for this week?
Yeah, I hope to have them both. They both were running around last night, so think that we'll have both of them available.
Sooner Scoop HD.